Welcome to KMUZ Theatre Talk. I'm your host, Ed Schoaps, with news and in-depth interviews about plays and auditions happening at theaters throughout the mid-Willamette Valley. Joining me for today's backstage interview are director Seth Renne and actors Noah Miller and Natishia Fenley from the Kander and Ebb musical CABARET, running September 4th through 27th at the Gallery Theater in McMinnville. But first, let's check the KMUZ Theatre Talk calendar for news about shows and auditions happening at your favorite mid-Willamette Valley theaters. For the McMinnville and Newburgh area theaters, at Gallery Theater in downtown McMinnville, coming to Gallery's main stage September 4th through 27th is Kander and Ebb's enduring hit musical CABARET, directed by Seth Renne, who joins me later in today's program, along with two actors from the show. And on the Gallery Theater call board, open auditions for Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella will happen at Gallery Theater on September 12th and 13th. It's directed by Debbie Harmon Ferry, and the call is for actors age 14 and up for principal roles. For complete details, check the sign-up link on the auditions page at gallerytheater.org. And for show information and tickets, go to gallerytheater.org and Gallery's Facebook page. For the greater Salem area theaters, at Kaiser Homegrown Theater, playing through August 30th, is I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change, the musical comedy about everything you have ever secretly thought but were afraid to admit about dating, romance, marriage, lovers, husbands, wives, and in-laws. This series of vignettes with book and lyrics by Joe DiPietro and music by Jimmy Roberts is one of the longest-running off-Broadway musicals. And you can hear more about this show from director Shalene Reed Holbrook on the KMUZ Theatre Talk podcast. For show information and tickets, go to kaiserhomegrowntheater.org and their Facebook page. At Pinnacle Theater in Salem, the musical Catch Me If You Can, with book by Terrence McNally and music by Mark Shaman and Scott Whitman, continues its run through September 5th at Pinnacle. A true story that's based on a hit film, Catch Me If You Can follows an incredibly successful young con man on the run from the FBI. It's all about chasing your dreams and not getting caught. You can learn more from director Wendy Boyack along with actors Hunter Mote and Jeff Witt on the KMUZ Theatre Talk podcast. On the Pinnacle Theater call board, open auditions for Pinnacle's holiday show, Charles Dickens Writes a Christmas Carol, happen September 26th at Pinnacle's downtown Salem rehearsal studio at 197 Liberty Street Southeast. It's directed by Chris Davidson and plays November 20th through December 12th. See the pinnacletheater.org website and Facebook page for show information, tickets, and complete audition details. Wandering Players Theatrics in Salem has a new venue located in the former Cinnabar space in downtown Salem. The new facility will be the home of Wandering Players Theatrics while also serving as a shared creative hub for artists, performers, educators, nonprofits, and community organizations throughout the region. Their inaugural production on their new stage will be a reprise of their popular and very bloody show, Evil Dead the Musical. Wandering Players Theatrics is now accepting applications for Evil Dead the Musical auditions that are happening on August 29th and for production jobs. Stipends are paid for performance and production roles. For more show information, tickets, and audition and employment applications, go to dothenecronomicon.com. And for the Staten and Silverton area theaters, at Spotlight Community Theater in downtown Staten, open auditions for 10 Ways to Survive the Holidays by Dan Zolidis and directed by Audrey Davis are happening September 5th at the downtown Staten Theater. This fast-paced holiday show hilariously captures the chaos of the season, from awkward family photos to carolers who really want their figgy pudding. It's a merry romp through all your favorite holiday pitfalls, packed with laughs for the whole family and lots of holiday cheer. The call is for 5 male, 5 female, and 5 youth actors, ages 10 and up. For more audition information, go to Spotlight's Facebook page and spotlightct.com. For the Albany and Corvallis area theaters, at Albany Civic Theater, the international hit musical Come From Away will run September 11th through October 3rd at ACT. It tells the true story of how the isolated community of Gander, Newfoundland, played host to the world. What started as an average day in a remote Canadian town turned into an international sleepover when 38 planes carrying thousands of people from throughout the globe were diverted to Gander's airstrip on September 11, 2001. With book, music, and lyrics by Irene Sankoff and David Hyan, Come From Away is directed at Albany Civic Theater by Lorianne Schmidt. On the Albany Civic Theater call board, open auditions for the holiday comedy Inspecting Carol are September 21st through 23rd at ACT. Inspecting Carol is directed by Josh Mitchell and Christy Sears, and the show runs December 4th through 19th. For show information, tickets, and audition details, go to albanycivic.org and Facebook. At the Majestic Theater in Corvallis, Miss Holmes by Christopher M. Walsh and based on characters by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle runs September 25th through October 4th at the Majestic. It's directed by Melissa Gutierrez. For show information and tickets, go to majestic.org and their Facebook page. And that's a wrap for today's KMUZ Theatre Talk calendar. If your Mid-Willamette Valley Theater has a play or audition coming up that's not on our calendar, please let us know at kmuztheatertalk@gmail.com. Joining me next are director Seth Renne and actors Noah Miller and Natishia Fenley from Kander and Ebb's musical theater masterpiece, Cabaret, running September 4th through 27th at Gallery Theater in McMinnville. That's coming up right after this short break. Hi, Ed Schoaps here, host of the KMUZ Theatre Talk program and podcast. KMUZ FM is the Mid-Willamette Valley's all-volunteer, nonprofit, community-funded radio station. And we depend on listeners like you and on businesses throughout the Mid-Willamette Valley to help keep KMUZ FM on the air and KMUZ Theatre Talk coming your way. You know, it's super easy to give what you can. Just go to kmuz.org. Click the donate button and become a sustaining donor, or make a one-time contribution that fits your budget. And thank you for supporting KMUZ Theatre Talk and your commercial-free, all-volunteer, community-funded radio station. In 1929 Germany, it was the close of the jazz era, and the decadent lifestyle of Berliners in their nightlife was not very popular with the rising Nazi party. There were a lot of cabarets and nightclubs and a lot of performers who literally suffered under the rising Nazi parties. And Cabaret, the musical, written by Kander and Ebb, speaks to this directly. It's a wonderful show, extremely popular, great music, but with a story that still rings true today. My guests this morning are director Seth Renne from the Gallery Theater, where Cabaret is playing September 4th through 7th, and he's brought with him actors Natishia Fenley and Noah Miller. Welcome to KMUZ Theatre Talk.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us, Ed.
Thanks so much.
Seth, Cabaret is one of my favorite musicals of all time. I have a little bit of history with that show, and you have a history with Cabaret as well. You played Clifford Bradshaw, who is the English writer. What brought you to take on this project again, but this time as director?
I've always been drawn to Cabaret. I find it to be a really fascinating look at how when people decide to take a step back and not participate, that the world can change around them and suddenly you're in a place you don't recognize any longer. And it felt like that was just a really important story to be telling again at this time in our history.
This story is as relevant today, I think, as it was when the play was first written in 1951. This play has a long, long history of many productions. How would you characterize the story that is set in pre-war Berlin in the shadows of the Weimar era and the rise of Nazism? And how does it apply to today's world?
So we are using the metaphor of a frog sitting in a pot of boiling water to describe how the process of this show goes. So at the beginning of it, everything is a party. And yes, at that time in history, the world was changing. The Nazis were rising. We are looking at how that shifts through the entire production to the point that at the end of the show, we see the result of people letting life happen. And in Germany during this time, we were seeing multiple elections where leaders were not being chosen, all the way to the point that in early 1932, when Adolf Hitler was officially elected chancellor, we are looking at it from a perspective of this little safe haven of a cabaret and how the outside world is finding its way in the cracks. And then you juxtapose that with the Fräulein Schneider Herr Schultz storyline, where it is a more overt racism and changing of the relationships between people there.
The Nazi Party at that time was really focused on certain racial groups and not just the Jews. I mean, everybody thinks primarily about the persecution of the entire Jewish population in Germany. But the cabaret story tells a little more, goes deeper into the nightclub scene, the place where gays and lesbians and people of all races were performing in a safe place. And then suddenly they weren't. Talk about that a little bit, Seth.
These cabarets and the Kit Kat Club specifically are a place where gender is fluid and that sexuality is celebrated. And the Nazis were very against a lot of, like you said, beyond the Jewish people. People were arrested for homosexuality, for being a Jehovah's Witness, for being a political prisoner, communist or socialist. And so the Kit Kat Club is a place where all of the people who are othered are able to come together and be celebrated.
Noah, the cabaret scene in pre-war Berlin was fantastic. The jazz era was very much alive. People of all different backgrounds not only came to the club, but were happy to see that the talent included every spectrum of human. Talk about your role as the MC and how you lead the story on stage so that the audience can actually feel like they're part of the nightclub scene.
As I have begun to develop my role as the MC, it's been very interesting because there's so much iconography of this character in not only the musical theater world, but pop culture. I think Cabaret is a show that has been appreciated and parodied and referenced so much in a lot of spheres, and so there's a lot to pull from, not only from Cabaret's productions in the past itself, but also the myriad of people who have played the MC, especially with the enigma that was Alan Cumming. I think it's been really amazing to get to know the cast of our production because we do have a wide variety of people coming from all different types of backgrounds and demographics. And I think the cast really represents exactly what you would hope and expect to see out of a place that's eclectic and super quirky and at times grungy and raunchy and really exposed to so many different facets of the world. Because Berlin it was and still is such a cultural hub, it's really cool to be working with all these people that I feel like truly represent a very wide variety of the population and a really wide variety with skills and talents and vocal types.
At the close of the jazz world and the rise of Nazism, people were still going out to have a laugh, but weren't paying attention to what was going on next door. Natishia, as Sally Bowles, how was your character part of that culture in the club? And did Sally Bowles pay attention to what was going on under her nose?
I think that's an interesting question. I think my character is definitely a part of all of that going on within the world at the time, but also a part of the delusion, the escapism. I think she throws herself into the theater, to the performing arts, and turns a blind eye, we could say, as most people do when things get rough in the real world, and just loses herself in the community of the theater, but also it's only goes until it can't any longer. And I think she definitely experiences that whirlwind of emotions through cabaret. And I am learning that as I go along. She's very, very, very delusional.
She's young and she's inexperienced in the world. And she comes from England to trying to become a successful singer in the music scene in Berlin. But she has her own challenges in her life. How does her dream change between the time she meets the young writer Clifford Bradshaw, who's working on his novel, and the relationship that they have?
Yeah, I think it doesn't only change her dreams. I think they just shift slightly once she meets Cliff. And as you said, yes, I would agree. She's very young and inexperienced, but she's thriving to have this attention on her and be this bigger performer. And when she meets Cliff, I think she wants to also be with him, be loving, and also have that fantasy lifestyle of having a kid and wanting extravagant things and all of that. And I think there's a shift. I don't think her focus completely changes. I just think slightly changes when she meets Cliff, and she's hoping that she can have the best of both worlds, where that's not always the case.
Seth, tell us about some of the other relationships that are important in this story, like Fräulein Schneider and her boarder.
The show really takes place in two worlds. There's the world of the Kit Kat Club, and then there is the world of Fräulein Schneider's boarding house. And Cliff is brought to Schneider's house to rent a room there, and we meet some of the other people who are living. There is Herr Schultz, who is a elderly Jewish man who owns a fruit shop in the Nollendorfplatz. And there is this very beautiful, sweet relationship that has developed over many years, long before we entered this scene, between Schneider and Schultz. It is this story of two older people who are later in life, who are both alone, and the way that they have come together and just developed a relationship and grown close to each other. And before long, they realize that they love each other. Through the course of the show, we see them get engaged and have an engagement party, and then the world gets involved and we find out that it's not going to work out between the two of them, and it's heartbreaking. And we also have Fräulein Kost, is another boarder in the house, and she is, as they say, a woman of the night. She has many sailor friends who come over, and we see how she is involved in the lives of Schneider and Schultz and Cliff. She is a more hardened person. You can tell that she's had a rougher life. She ends up being the cause of many, many issues for these people. And we've been really working on what are the different relationships between Fräulein Schneider and Fräulein Kost. They're butting heads all the time, but Kost is bringing sailors over when this is not a place that Schneider is comfortable with that happening.
I've always seen her as a nationalist that takes a bad turn when the Nazis come around.
And she definitely ends up being on the side of the Nazis through the course of the show. We discover that. And she ends up causing the reason that actually ends the relationship between Schneider and Schultz because of her nationalism to Germany and the Nazi Party.
Noah, there are so many great musical numbers in this show. And there is one that is primarily allegorical. It starts out looking to be a funny number, but it has a different message altogether. Talk about that.
I think that number, if you could see her, is one of the most conflicting numbers for an audience member to enjoy because it starts out so silly. Although where it falls in the show, I think at this point the audience has started to get the picture a little bit that anything that they see that is fun and enjoyable is probably not going to last that way very long, because they have already begun to see this falling apart. And If You Could See Her is definitely later in the show. So it starts out with the MC describing this beautiful person, but yet they have a complex relationship and the world doesn't understand it. And maybe they're thinking that it's related to Judaism, or maybe they're thinking it's something else. But either way, when the gorilla comes out after a little bit in the number, they're like, oh, that is so funny. He's in love with the gorilla. And then when you get to the end of the number, all of a sudden we have this really heartfelt monologue within the song where he's just pleading with the audience to offer understanding and to let them just live in peace. And then he takes this hard left turn with she wouldn't look Jewish at all
with
sentence.
Reveal.
Yes, this big reveal, and meanwhile this actress is dressed in a gorilla costume, right? So it's meant to be very terrifying to the audience, especially juxtaposed against this very bright, shiny, horn-forward musical theater golden age score sound after that moment of horrifying, deadening silence. I think that the biggest thing that the audience could take away from that number is that we are making a solid statement here, not just alluding to a point of view. And I think that's what Cabaret does so well, is have these moments where it really holds up a mirror to the audience's preconceived notions and exactly what is going on in the time period. And I think that's super important.
You're right on, Noah. This is really one of the most important numbers in the entire musical. There's another number that I want to ask you about, Natishia. It's a contrast. Again, most people think about the musical number, Welcome to the Cabaret. You're going to have a great time tonight, folks. It's a great number. It's a perfect opening for the show. But later on, Sally Bowles sings one of my favorite songs, which speaks to her character and the times as well. And that's Maybe This Time. Tell me why Sally's rendition of this number is so important to the musical.
This number, it's emotionally charging. She's had this shift through the show where she finally allows herself to be vulnerable and hope for something romantically that will last. Maybe even give her a lifestyle that she never really could see herself in before. So I think this number really gives her the opportunity to share that with the audience, be vulnerable for the first time, and let them know that she is capable of something more, capable of just a wild lifestyle at the cabaret. And she's willing to romantically find love.
You know, the heartbreak comes later, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's pretty hard. Seth, this story is filled with so many interesting characters, from Ernst, who you think is a nice guy but isn't, Cliff, who is an idealistic young writer, Sally, who is an inexperienced but adventuresome girl, and there's a whole nightclub ensemble filled with Kit Kat girls and Kit Kat boys. Talk about the ensemble and how important they are to this story as well.
Yeah, the Kit Kat Club represents so many people. And what I love about the ensemble in this show is each one of them is identified as a different character, and they each have a personality that we get to see throughout the show. And in the opening numbers, the MC gets to introduce you to all of these different personalities. And our cast is absolutely phenomenal. The choreography that Kathleen Vanderveer has been teaching these people is just stunning. And we were so incredibly lucky to get a diversity of people in our ensemble. Going into the auditions for this show was really hoping that we would have people of different ages, of different body types, of different sizes, different skin colors, to be able to put this community together. And we were able to find our 6 girls and our 4 boys, all of them are talented and can sing and can dance. And I cannot say enough wonderful things about this ensemble that we have. They are so talented. People are going to be absolutely floored. These people are dancing their hearts out. Noah, I've never seen somebody sweat so much doing this, and he's so fully committed. It is a real incredible sight to see. I've always been a person who believed that your principal characters in the show are going to set the environment for the rest of the cast. And that has been so incredibly true with this show, that the time and the energy and the professionalism that Noah and Natishia and Tony, who's playing our Cliff, have brought to this process has just elevated everybody to where they are all stepping up and giving 110%, and it shows.
Noah, the MC is on stage almost constantly in this show. What onstage moment do you look forward to that you hope is going to be enjoyed by the audience as much as you enjoy performing it?
I have never enjoyed being in a character as much as I have enjoyed being the MC so far. The second that the ensemble joins me fully in Willkommen, I have this rush of adrenaline and just pure love for being on stage in that moment. The first time that we all sing the main chorus together and we are all doing these wild movements and very contorted postures, I think that is the moment that I'm most looking forward to the audience seeing and enjoying, before we all devolve into the horrors of the show.
Mm. Mm. And Natishia, I know you must be looking forward to a particular scene or a particular number as well. Tell us about that.
Miss K's choreo is phenomenal, just amazing. And it gives us the chance to exude so much energy and have so much fun. And I think the audience is really going to feel that from the stage. And I think one of the scenes that are going to blow them away is Mein Herr. That song, the chairs that we're going to incorporate is going to be phenomenal. And I just can't wait to bring that excitement and that energy and just share it, sprinkle it along the theater with everyone that's going to be there watching. It's going to make you guys wish you were dancing with us.
You're right about one thing in that number for sure, and that is that the chairs dance as much as the Kit Kat girls.
Absolutely. And Miss K did not miss out on incorporating that as much as she possibly could. It's going to be great.
Seth, how is the show being staged? And are you doing anything different that is special for this show?
We have built the Kit Kat Club on the stage itself. So there is a stage on our stage with proscenium and cabaret tables set up around the stage that people will have the opportunity to purchase tickets for. So if you want a fully immersive show, you can buy a ticket to sit up on the stage and see the show from 3 feet away, closer than that at times. I was in a test seat the other day and Noah jumped down off the stage on right in front of the table that I was sitting at, and he was 1.5 feet away from me, just singing his heart out. And people will have the opportunity to view it either from our traditional theater seats or up on the stage itself, which is a really cool opportunity.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think people are going to be really into it. The tickets for it are already selling pretty well. So if people are interested in that, I would get them as soon as possible. Because I think that once people come opening weekend, if they're sitting out in the regular house, they are going to want to buy tickets again to try to get up on stage as soon as they have the opportunity.
Seth, what do you hope the audience is going to be talking about on the way home?
Oh, that is such a good and huge question with this show.
Yeah, the show starts out with welcome to this big party, and it ends on a big turn.
Yeah, it's such a shift in the tone of the show as we get into the second act. I hope that they are walking away remembering the incredible performances that they saw. This cast is, I cannot speak highly enough about the people who are in this show and how wonderful and talented they are. And they are putting on a beautiful show. And I hope that they walk away remembering that. And I hope that they walk away being inspired and I don't know if being touched is the right word, but like I hope it leaves a mark on them to remember that we are all participants in our world and things happen when we let them, but we also have the power to change. Cabaret is a story about what happens when people don't step up and be the change that they need in the world. And we have the opportunity right now in our world and in our country to say, this is not who we are, and to step up and make that change for ourselves.
Well, folks, Cabaret by Kander and Ebb, the musical that's been going strong since the 1950s, is playing at the Gallery Theater September 4th through 7th. You can get more information about the show and tickets at Gallery Theater, that's with an ER.org. Get your tickets early. This show is going to sell out, and you are going to have a fantastic evening. And take a look at those seats that Seth talked about, the onstage seats, because that will bring you an experience that you don't normally have at the gallery main stage. I'm really happy to have been talking to director Seth Renne and actors Noah Miller and Natishia Fenley from the cast of Cabaret. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me here on KMUZ Theatre Talk, and break that leg on opening night.
Thank you so much for having us, Ed.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks so much.
It's time to wind up today's KMUZ Theatre Talk program. Thanks a million for listening and for supporting KMUZ Theatre Talk. You know, KMUZ Theatre Talk comes your way at 9 a.m. the first and third Friday of every month on KMUZ 100.7 and 88.5 FM. Also on KMWV FM Dallas at 98.3 HD2 and streaming worldwide at kmuz.org and on the KMUZ mobile app. And if you'd like to share this program with your friends and hear more behind the curtain interviews, open your favorite podcast app and subscribe to KMUZ Theatre Talk. KMUZ Theatre Talk is proud to partner with the Mid-Valley Theatre Network and with Press Play Salem. I'll be back September 4th with a brand new KMUZ Theatre Talk program and podcast. And until then, I'll see you in the front row.